Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Season is well and truly drawing to a close now, all across the board. Playoffs, playoff bound, playoff times for playoffs. Yeah, it's the playoffs. There's still football to talk about. There is still football going on, so stay tuned for that. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop us a review. If you enjoy the podcast, leave us a review. If you enjoy the podcast, share it with your friends. They might enjoy it too. Right, let's get talking football. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Yes, for what will be one of the last times this season, ladies and gentlemen. That noise tells you all you need to know. We're back. I was going to say the three of us, I definitely can't count. There's four of us. The four of us are back. We're here to talk about football once again. The trials and tribulations of at least two of the three clubs that we support. But again, I can't do it alone. I come to you with the assistance of Nottingham Forest's finest, Matthew Moore. How are you, sir?
Good.
Excellent. We also come to you with Hull City's finest, Stuart Woodmansey. How are you?
Excellent. We haven't lost in a little while because we're all done. So.
Awesome. Haven't lost in at least 7 minutes, which is always good from a Hull City perspective. He says, whilst fully expecting to get the absolute shit roots out of him at some point. And up until last week, he was a Bermondsey boy, but sadly they let him down. So technically, he might be a Blackburn boy, but we don't know yet. It'll all depend on the team that he picks for the start of next season. But he is the quintessential CookieCast podcaster. It is the leader of the podcast, Mr. Andrew Cook. How are you, sir?
Well, as the YouTube watchers will attest to, I have ascended to my godly form, and I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yes, for those of you not watching on YouTube, Mr. Cook is dealing with nature's spotlight, as it were, that's making him look rather heavenly as we speak. So
it's either that or Cyclops has taken off the mask.
Yeah, and for those who watch Marvel or possibly X-Men, I don't know.
Oh, there we go. He's 2 for 2, everyone. I'm glad we all sat down for that. Jesus.
It's one or the other, but we're not there in the end. So, obviously, it was the end of the football season on last week's show. This week, it was the end of the season from a championship perspective. I do apologise, Mr. Moore there, just thinking, hang on a second.
Fine, stop, finished, we're done.
I'm going to snap your hand off for it now.
If it's over, yes, let's please. We'll take that. Sadly, sorry.
Paul Williams has decreed the season's over. We're done.
that would be quite nice. Yeah, that'd be quite nice. Sadly, yeah, I don't get to make those rules. But end of the regular season for the EFL, as it is. Premier League still has 2 weeks left to run, and obviously we are in the midst of the Football League playoffs. So, first game from last week, we started in the capital, where Chelsea took on Nottingham Forest. How did this one pan out in the end, Mr. Moore?
A positive result, I think. Kind of looking at it. So a 2-2 draw is kind of what the result was. By the highlights and match reports that I read, it looked like Forest have played the same game that they played for the majority of the season. Defend, soak up a lot, let them have possession where they want it. 75% possession Chelsea, 25% possession Forest, and hit them on the break. Putting a bit of pressure pressure here and there and squeezing them and stuff like that. And by the look of Chelsea in the first half, they looked quite kind of spooked by it and kind of not confident at all. And by that, Forest opened the scoring by a nice cross-in from Renan Lodi, and Taiwo Awoniyi beat the keeper and the defenders to the ball first and nodded it in for a 1-0 lead going into half-time, which was kind of alright, kind of stomach doing flips and kind of general feeling of sickness kind of thing. And then, all my fears were swiftly realised by Raheem Sterling equalising not long after the break. A bit of poor defending, really. I think, it just kind of bobbled around a bit, and then he stuck it in the back of the net. Not the best. And then not long after that, he doubled his total for the thing. I did warn everybody last week, if you need an England player that hasn't scored in a while, then join, come and see Forest and we'll sort you out. Then the second goal, Felipe went to ground a bit too easily, I think, and left in the space to kind of curl it round Navas. But in a way that they haven't really shown much until the last month or so, Forest kind of had a little bit of fight in them, and Awoniyi got a second, a really nice kind of move in the box, but bowled around a little bit, and then Mangala dinked it in, and another header from the big man up front. And the kind of Forest kind of clung on to it at the end. But a 2-2 draw, a valuable point, but a point could have been more, could have been less. Add that to the total of now 17 points thrown away from a winning position. But who's here for negative stats? Everyone's here for negative stats. Everyone loves a negative stat.
Some would say it's the fuel that drives this podcast on. The negativity is rife at times, and it is the lifeblood of the Cookie Casters football podcast.
However, another nice stat that I heard is Awoniyi is the first Forest player to score a brace in the Premiership since Brian Roy in '95. So nearly 30 years since a Forest player scored a brace. Now, 27 of those years have been spent outside of the Premier League, but still a stat that not to be proud. Well, proud of for him, not to be proud of for the rest of the donkeys that Forest have employed over the previous 27 years.
Listen, as we know from the American Football Podcast and the Wrestling Podcast, the Americans can't have it their own way and have the monopoly on all the stats that are definitely not stats that they just make up and just throw out there whenever they want to get some sort of point across. So let's start adopting it.
It's like out of context stats when you have like the different kind of things on Instagram and stuff like out of context such and such. Out of context stats. Oh yeah, here's a stat. Oh yeah, they haven't played each other for 30 years, but here you go.
Oh, it's beautiful. You love to see it. Right, so 2-2 draw. From a predictions perspective, Mr. Cook, you'll all be shocked to hear, had gone for a 1-0 Nottingham Forest win with Johnson to score the goal. Sadly, no points for Mr. Cook. Mr. Woodmansey had gone for a 1-0 Chelsea win with Madueke to score the goal. No points for him. I had gone for a 2-0 Chelsea win with Gallagher and Madueke to score the goals. No points for me. Mr. Moore, though, I hope you're putting some bets on at this point because you kind of like just all in at the minute.
I'm on a run at the moment. I'm doing all right.
You certainly are. So Mr. Moore had correctly predicted a 2-2 draw, so bagged himself 2 points straight off the bat. He also had Sterling to score for Chelsea, as we covered in the podcast last week. Obviously, hasn't scored for a while. England international. Get your house on him to score. Havertz for the second, so no points there. And then for the Forest goals, he had Gibbs White and Awonyi. So gets himself another bonus point there. So for those of you keeping score, 0 points for myself, Mr. Cook, or Mr. Woodmansey. Mr. Moore straight in there with 4 points.
So we just go now then. Yeah, that's
It'd be difficult to catch him in our one remaining game of the week, which saw the first leg of the Middlesbrough playoff semi-final with Coventry. It took place at the Coventry Building Society Arena, where it was Coventry City versus Middlesbrough. This one started off at quite a decent pace from a Borough perspective. They, I'd say, within the first sort of 20 to 30 minutes of the game, Coventry never really had a kick as such. Middlesbrough had the best of the chances. Ball came into the box. Akpom managed to get it out of his feet. Was closed down by the keeper, who got a save on his effort and tipped it onto the bar. A couple more efforts here and there. Then obviously Coventry grew into the game a little bit more after the half an hour mark. But it went through to half time at 0-0. Second half started much of a similar sort of vein. Middlesbrough more on the front foot. Coventry trying to pick them off on the counter. Middlesbrough did have the ball in the net a portion of the time in the second half. However, it was ruled out correctly, I may say, for an offside against Isaiah Jones. And from there, the game kind of petered out. Really, nothing really much of note. From a Coventry perspective, they did manage to go the entire 90 minutes without registering a shot on target in the game. So that's, I think, praise has to be given there to the Middlesbrough centre halves, Darrell Lenihan and Paddy McNair, for keeping Victor Gyökeres quiet on the day. And that's when the game finished. It finished 0-0. So finally poised ahead of this week's second leg at the Riverside. From a predictions perspective, I had a couple of correct. Well, I say correct. No one had picked a 0-0. Surprise, surprise. Mr. Cook, the most optimistic, shockingly, had gone for a 2-0 Borough win with Archer and Akpom to get the goals. Mr. Woodmansey had gone for a 2-1 Coventry win with Gyökeres, Godden to score for Coventry and Akpom to score for the Borough. Myself and Mr. Moore just kept it simple with 1-1 draws. And we had both picked Gyökeres to score for Coventry and Archer to score for the Borough. So, no points for goal scorers, of course. However, we do get a point each for the correct result in the fact that we picked a draw. So, only two games to pick from. Stuart and Andy come into the week and sadly have no points to show from their two games. I had one, and Matt absolutely stormed the week with 5 points. Mr. Woodmansey, I believe you have some information to raise about particular. I don't know if it's about this particular game or just something in playoffs in general.
No, just about the championship in general. Seeing as the regular season has come to an end, I was doing a little bit of reading, and as we mentioned before, we seem to like a bit of negativity. So what could be more negative than finding out who the dirtiest teams in the entire championship were for the season?
Can I throw forward Sunderland AFC?
Well, I can run through the list slightly. It is broken down in chunks that I'll have to flick through. But anybody want to hazard a guess over how many yellow cards were dished out during the championship season?
Let's have a go at 320.
Okay, so
I was going to go 1,000. I was like 1,200, something like that.
Okay, Andy, do you want to give me a number?
I was going to go with like 100, but now I'm like, maybe that's not 1,500.
Okay, so in the 22-23 campaign alone, there were over 2,000 yellow cards. Yeah, no, tell me about it. And there were also 65 dismissals, which is including straight reds and 2 yellows. So that was the over 2,000 stat that got me.
Let's try and break it down. So you've got 12 games per week and 46 game weeks. I've
done the maths. If you want, so 46 times 24, that's 1,000 104 games.
So averages
Well,
out
have you
on
done-
more than a
have you
card a
done-
game.
Who a game?
Well, actually, you have to half it, don't you? Because each game has 2 teams in it.
Okay then. 4 a game.
Yeah.
That is,
No, so there's not as many
Because
games.
everybody plays home and away.
Yeah, but every game, so it's not. I'm sure there's like rhyme or reason. There's a maths person that's like listening to this now, just going, "That's not how that
Well, having a
works."
heart attack.
in the words of every single podcast that's ever been recorded, where the fuck is Carol Vorderman when you need her?
Probably having some plastic surgery
Now
done.
I'll tell you something. If there's a podcast catchphrase for this podcast, everyone knows that's what it is. We're always dropping that.
Well, the information that I've seen is taken from an article that was put into the Yorkshire Post, but it was data sourced from popular website Transfermarkt, which we've used before. So just a few highlights. Obviously, I'll give you like the cleanest teams in the league because one or two of them may surprise you. So it was done in such a way that a yellow card would earn 1 point. A sending off because of 2 yellow cards would earn 3, and a straight red would count as 5 points. So all teams were ranked on that basis. The cleanest team in the league. Anyone brave enough to hazard a guess?
Just going off the fact that you've said it'll be a bit of a surprise, I'm going to go for Millwall.
Hold that thought. Not quite. No. It may be a little closer to home for one of us, but not directly, as the cleanest team in the league was West Bromwich Albion. They only had 76 points. However, Millwall, second cleanest team in the league, with 80 points, which is insane. Although saying that, the players may be well behaved, it's just the fans you've got to watch out for. Third cleanest team in the league, Hull City, with 82 points, which was a bit of a shock to me because I seem to recall a couple of red cards this season. But maybe we just didn't get quite as many yellows as everybody else. So whatever. Moving on up. So the dirtiest towards the dirtier end of the spectrum. Well, clearly towards the dirtier end of the spectrum, you're gonna find Middlesbrough, right? So yeah, Middlesbrough were surrounded by, in fact, Coventry were just before them with 98 points. Middlesbrough only slightly dirtier on 99 points, but do sit 15th in the middle of the rankings, as it were. So kind of only slightly higher than the middle of the road. So, Paul, you mentioned Sunderland. Just to flip the rankings the other way now, they are the 7th dirtiest team in the league. So you were right. There was definitely a top 10. They had 105 points. Do we just go all in now? Who do you think was the dirtiest team in the league?
I'm trying to think of teams that I can remember like playing it early in the season, just thinking, wow, they have got some right horrible bastards in them.
Sheffield United, Matt said, they are 3rd dirtiest. Second was Preston. But officially, for the 22-23 season, the dirtiest team in the league, Swansea City, with 118 points. I thought that was...
You wouldn't have thought that a side that sort of has got like a bit of a reputation for being like a sort of a slick pass and move, like build from the back side, you wouldn't have thought they'd have some horrible rhyme with, bumped in the team,
It did surprise me that as well, because they always get a really good rep for being quite a family club and, like you say, like a passing team. But yeah, that one did surprise me. But I think the least surprising aspect was what Matt called, in the sense of Sheffield United been right up there. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I quite enjoy stuff like that. So
I suppose you just have to look at you look at the manager, because the manager sets the tone. And given how Mr. Heckingbottom acted in the playoffs against Nottingham Forest last season, I am not surprised to find out that his team is full of dirty, cheating bastards. Just one final point. Obviously, the first leg of the Middlesbrough semi-final finished 0-0. The other semi-final, so for the team that Middlesbrough would play against if they were to beat Coventry in the second leg, finished Sunderland 2, Luton 1. So Sunderland were in the driving seat from that perspective. The game is actually ongoing as we speak for the second leg, and Luton are currently 1-0 in front. So that tie is currently level on aggregate 2-2. So as it stands at the moment, if the game was to finish now, we'd be having extra time and then the possibility of penalties. So watch your space, and obviously if the Borough do get through to the final, we'll cover the team that they'll play in the final next week. So all that leaves us with is next week's game. So as we said before, two games to cover this week. It's the second leg of the Middlesbrough versus Coventry semi-final. So, on that regard, obviously it's my team, therefore I will go last. I'll open the floor up to you, gentlemen, and we'll go through to Mr. Woodmansey. What is your prediction for this particular game?
For the Middlesbrough Coventry game,
Yes, please.
as I said last week, I don't have a good feeling, and in a way of which regular listeners to the podcasts will be well aware of, we'll try and predict some negative juju to then obviously not be right. So I've gone for a 1-0 Coventry win with Gyökeres to score.
Okay. He was kept pretty quiet on Sunday, but whether they can keep him quiet for 2 full 90 minutes, we'll wait and see. Mr. Cook, what have you got for this one?
I feel the last game was just get through the game. Don't be showing anything off. Don't be flash. But the next game, that's where we really need to see the magic. And it's a scoreline that has served me well. And by well, I mean I don't think I've ever hit it a single time this season. So now's the time to get it. It's a 2-0 Borough win. And my two favourites are coming out for this game, Archer, Chuba.
Yeah, 2-0 Archer and Akpom. You get the goals. Mr. Moore, what have you picked for this one?
I've gone for the more kind of the playoffs generally end up at some point in absolute insanity. And providing that it doesn't happen tonight for the Sunderland-Luton game, or Luton-Sunderland game, it's probably going to happen tomorrow night. So I've gone for 3-2 Borough after extra time. Long night.
Imagine if it's 0-0 at full time and then it finishes like that.
Can we not? Can we not, lads? Goal scorers, please.
Hey, you're not telling me you wouldn't take it?
Obviously.
I'm the person who sticks like all his things on all over the table on a roulette table. So I've got Akpom, Archer, and Ramsey for Borough. And Gyökeres and Gordon.
So Ramsey, not sure if he'll be fit. I think he was in the squad, but there's massive sort of question marks of how fit he might be.
I'm sticking with it.
All right, okay. And your 2 for Cov?
Gyökeres and Gordon.
So, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to slice it, I am going to be in attendance for this game. I managed to snap up some of the tickets as they were flying off the shelves. Thankfully, managed to get in there just before the shutters came down, so to speak. So I will be in attendance. Therefore, obviously, will be for want of a better phrase, shitting myself for the entire 90 plus. However, based off of what the game that I saw on Sunday and the 45 minutes in the second half from the game the week before, I think Borough will have just about enough to get over the line here. I think the home crowd will play massively into the game. I think if the Borough fans can sort of be on it from like the first minute, then hopefully we should see something more positive. So I have agreed with Mr. Cook. I have gone for a 2-0 scoreline, and I have also gone for Archer and Akpom to score the goals. Whether that is the case, obviously, no one's going to know. This has happened before. I did go to the previous time Middlesbrough were in the playoffs and managed to get to the final when they played Brentford across the two legs. They won the first leg 2-1 and then 3-0 in the second leg at home. So I'd take that all day long. A nice 3-0 win for the Borough, which would hopefully see them through to the final on the 27th of May. That's the Borough game out of the way. That just leaves us with Nottingham Forest's second to last fixture of the season. Before we dive into the Forest game, as we are going to discuss the ramifications of the other teams that are in and around Forest at the bottom of the Premier League, we are just going to take a short break just to replenish ourselves, make sure we're in the right frame of mind, and then we're going to break down all that sort of jazz at the bottom of the Premier League. So, once again, don't touch that dial, don't go anywhere. We will be right back in a few short ticks.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back in, ladies and gents. So, as we said before, we're going to pick it right back up with Forest's second to last game of the season, which takes place at the City Ground, and they will take on the at the time of recording team that have pretty much shat the bed when it comes to their title challenge hopes, shall we say, given their poor 3-0 home performance against Brighton at the weekend.
Have you seen that tweet that's been doing the rounds in the last couple of days about the Arsenal fan who had a massive falling out with his wife because he cancelled the family holiday so he could watch Arsenal win the Premier League this year? They were due to go on holiday on something like the 28th of May, or no, the 26th of May in the season. Whatever it is, it was 2 days the wrong side of the season finishing. I hope that man can afford the divorce as opposed to the holiday that is now being cancelled.
Oh dear. So, Nottingham Forest versus Arsenal. Before we go and give our predictions for the game, we are just going to break down the kind of the relegation battle as it currently stands. So, 5 teams in and around the bottom, not including Southampton, as they've already gone. They were officially relegated when they lost at home to Crystal Palace.
And the newly minted Southampton fan, Rishi Sunak, was in attendance. And as was pointed out on the radio earlier today, doesn't everything he touched just turn to gold?
We won't get into that.
No.
That could open some cans of worms. So, Southampton relegated, 24 points. As it currently stands, Leicester and Leeds both in the bottom 3. Leicester on 30 points with a goal difference of minus 18. Leeds on 31 points with a goal difference of minus 25. You then have Everton in 17th, 32 points, goal difference of minus 24. Forest in 16th, 34 points, goal difference of minus 31. So, Forest, as we discussed before, have the worst of the goal differences down there. With Leicester having the better of the goal differences. Leicester are 4 points behind Forest at this particular point. So a win for Forest means that Leicester won't be able to catch them. It wouldn't mean that Forest would be safe, but would mean that Leeds would have to win all of their remaining games to get out of it. So, Forest next game, Arsenal at home. Everton's next game, Wolves away. Leeds' next game, West Ham away. Leicester's next game, Newcastle away. So, Forest are the only team in the bottom four, well, of the bottom 5 sides that have got their home game first of the last 2 games of the season. I believe Everton Wolves is the only game that is played before Arsenal Forest, or Forest Arsenal. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you've got Everton Wolves is at 3:00. Forest Arsenal is at 5:30 on the Saturday.
Yeah.
West Ham Leeds will be kind of 2:00.
2:00 on Sunday.
On Sunday, and then Newcastle Leicester is
the Monday night
Monday
football.
night.
So there is a scenario where Leicester could be down potentially. I think without even playing.
No.
Oh no, because they can't beat 6
Everton,
points behind. No.
Even if Everton win, they could still technically.
Yeah, because there'll still be 6 points to play for, but they would have to win both of their last 2. As it currently stands, you're looking at Leicester pretty much having to win both of their last 2 games anyway, just given Everton's last 2 games. So we'll go through the prediction for this week, and then we'll go through the scenarios that will sort of for the last week of the season when we come to next week's predictions. So obviously it's Mr. Moore's team, so he will go last. Even though Arsenal have absolutely shat it and can't win the league pretty much, well, they still can mathematically, but Man City will have it sewn up by their next game. I'm more than certain. I do have Arsenal still winning this game, unfortunately. I've gone for a 3-1 Arsenal win. Gone for a 1 to score for Forest, then 2 for Jesus, and a goal for Smith Rowe, who I think might come in and get a couple of games at the end of the season to put in the shop window if they want to get rid in the summer. Andy, you looked horrified by what I was saying there. Why don't you put me right?
Horrified is an understatement. I mean, Matt's sitting right there, and you.
I gave him a goal.
You did, but it's a 1-0 Forest win. I'd like us all to say it together. Johnson to score.
Lovely stuff. Your podcast bingo cards being completed at will there, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Woodmansey.
I had the misfortune of watching some of the Arsenal game, and Jesus Christ have they lost their head. They know it's gone. There is nothing they can do about it at this stage in time, and I don't think that they'll be in the best frame of mind, which will go one of 2 ways. Now, sometimes teams, when they're up shit creek without a paddle, get a bit between their teeth and will then come out with a good old 4-0 spanking. But this Arsenal side, I do not see that happening. I've got Forest picking up a point with Gibbs White to score and Odegaard to score for Arsenal, because that kid will shoot from anywhere.
Yeah, but he's got the goals this season to back it up.
Yeah, he does
from midfield, so he's certainly on a hot vein. That is 15 goals with no penalties as well. So he's the highest non-penalty scoring midfielder in Europe, I believe. Go on then, Mr. Moore. Tell us the right score. Seems like you've been doing it for the last 3 weeks.
This is the kind of thing that I was like, for the relegation running thing. This is the kind of thing I needed to process in my head with you guys here. So obviously, Forest are on 34 points with Arsenal and Palace left to go, and I'm really kind of, head says we're not going to get any more points. Heart thinks maybe 2 more points out of these 2 games. Then I looked at the Everton games against Wolves and Bournemouth, and I think they can win. I think they'll win both of those games. I genuinely think they'll win both of those games.
I agree.
So that'll take them to 38. Leeds have got West Ham and Tottenham. Everybody knows my feelings about Tottenham. They're the biggest choking dogs in the league, and who knows what they managed to pull off on that last day of the season. I don't know what's going on with West Ham. Obviously, they've got the UEFA Conference thing left to go, and they seem to be resting players left, right, and centre. But then on the other side, I'm like, well, it's the last game of the season at West Ham, and you've got like your Declan Rices who look like they're leaving, and Antonio's out of contract in the summer. There's a lot of players that are on the way. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, Leicester. And then they're on 30 points. They've got Newcastle away. Again, I refer you back to my comment about Spurs. And then West Ham away. West Ham at home. And that could be, obviously, West Ham are done and dusted and might have that kind of like looking, if they've made it through to the UEFA Conference final, are they going to rest players, have the eyes on that kind of thing. So that's my panic kind of thing. I'm like, ugh. And then on the flip, adds to the level of panic of that stuffing from Brighton on Arsenal could have done one or two things. One, absolutely ruined them, or lit a fire up their arse, and I'm very, very worried that it's going to be the former of the two. But I'm hoping that Forest are like digging in, and that got that kind of thing at the moment. But I've gone for another optimistic 2-2 draw. Because like I said last week, we love to concede goals. But anybody who doesn't put goals down for the opposing team are throwing away 3 points there, because there's at least one going in. I've got 2 each. A 1-year Morgan Gibbs White for Forest. And Jesus and Odegaard for Arsenal.
You got to remember that Arsenal side have also are they still playing Granit Xhaka week in week out, who is the biggest hot-headed mother in the entire division, and if he starts to throw the toys out the pram to start with, I mean, it seems to run through the whole team when he kicks off.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the discussion is said that the moment their season seemed to start to fall apart was the Liverpool game where he kicked the lump out of somebody.
Yeah,
he didn't get sent off for it, but
I think it was Gary Neville's thing. He said he was Trent Alexander-Arnold. He said that kick basically woke Alexander-Arnold up and and kind of gave the Anfield crowd a little bit of a lift as well. And he said the one thing you always know that you don't do at Anfield is give the crowd a chance to get into the game. Yeah. And he said that just sort of like that was just a terrible mistake, basically, by Granit Xhaka. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because you can't ever look at another team's fixtures and sort of like pin all your hopes on that. So I suppose all I'd say is, if you were offered this position with 2 games to go at the start of the season, I'm assuming you'd have taken it. You'd have snapped the hand off, wouldn't you? Surely.
Yeah. If kind of technically in your own hands. I think the problem is when you look at those remaining 2 fixtures, and I think the frame that it's in. I think so. Like you look at the Arsenal game, and either way, I think a point would have been an optimistic kind of prediction, and that's what I've gone for. Like, if they were still going for the league, I mean, it might have been just like, yeah, sod it, it's going to be 4-0, they're going to absolutely wipe the floor with it and walk away. I think the other thing that me looking towards Palace, obviously they've not made a decision on Roy the Boy, but that might be like Roy's little swan song to his second stint at Palace to kind of thing, so they're going to want to send him out on a like high note kind of thing. I'm just kind of like the negative, like the kind of mist is drifting in of the negativity of like, oh God, here we go, this is the way we throw it away in the last 2 games when we've kind of really put it into our own hands kind of thing. And oh God, you can see it. I'm just looking at the fixtures and I can see where all the other teams are going to get all their other points and we're going to go down on goal difference. It's going to drive me mad.
I think if the fixtures had been the other way around, so if Arsenal had been away and Palace had been at home, I'd have quite comfortably said you're going to get 3 points minimum.
Yeah.
I think if they'd have been at home on that last day, I think the crowd would have come into it as well.
I was just going to say the exact same thing there. I think you'd have probably like. If you could literally make the fixtures yourself, you'd always want to have the last game at home.
well, I think I was listening to the radio on Saturday, praying that a team that I despised could do something against another team that I despised. And like they were talking about, the statistics show that being at home on that last day of the season is like in a kind of crunch situation is always beneficial, kind of thing. I don't know. It's that. Yeah, like you said, if they were at home last game of the season, aside from any of the top like 6, you'd have like 29,000 in the City Ground, and you might have the same outside. I mean, they might as well just get like big, massive tellies up in the car park, because I think you could probably like sell tickets for 25,000 people just to go and sit either in the car park and watch it, or in the city centre to watch it. And it would just be an absolute, not wanting to use Big Sam's phrase, but like an absolute bear pit. That it would be like the club coming to play, Forest, would be like harassed from midday that day to the moment that they got, like till the moment that they left, kind of thing. But I mean, maybe it'll be the same. I mean, it's not going to be 20. It's not going to be 50,000 people down at the City Ground on Saturday. But
if I was
have that, like,
if I was in big old Stevie Coop's position, though, I think the way to approach it surely is going to be, regardless of what happens, this weekend is almost a free hit. Because regardless of everybody else's results on this first round of games of going into the last 2, Palace are still going to Forest are still going to be out of the bottom 3 by the time that these games are played out. They can't slip down, can they, into the bottom 3?
They can. If Leeds win.
Yeah. So again, so they can't slip down into the bottom 3.
My God.
But
if Everton and Leeds both get positive results.
As Matt said before, their destiny is very much in their own hands still, and that's the important point, I think.
Yeah,
that's the bit to hang on to. I think regardless of what happens this weekend, if they need it, Palace are a very beatable side. I don't subscribe to the whole Roy's last game bullshit, because we've been here before. He's done it.
He's had it 2 or 3 times already.
He'll go back into his cryogenic freezer, and they'll pull him out next time they need him. Like, how many last games does he want? Do you know what I mean? Unless he absolutely just has a mare and snuffs it sat on the bench, that is the only way they're ever getting rid of him.
I think the slightly reassuring thing is that for Leicester and Leeds, they've got to win a game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, they've got to win a game. There's no, like, a draw is no good at all. They've got to win one of their 2 games to even give themselves a chance. So, hopefully, like, next week's pod, I'll like have a sun hat on and some sunglasses and a nice like background that's like me on a beach kind of thing, because it's all done and dusted. But I doubt it very much.
That's definitely the thing in it. With that, the second that the people tune into next week's podcast, they'll be able to tell the sort of the tone of the podcast, shall we say? Because obviously it'll either be me just in a dark room, surrounded by nothing but just blood dripping from things and stuff like that, or I'll be the one who looks like he's just spent the weekend, sampling some of the finer delights of many breweries from across the land, etc., etc.
I disagree, because if you win, you'll go from crapping yourself all night on Wednesday night this week to then doing it for a solid period of time right up until the end of the final.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
So if it's just me and Andy next week talking about the whole transfer market, then you know what's going on. Be a very short podcast.
Got the release list, the retain list.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's another week done and dusted. We've broken down the games from last week. We've given you the preview of the Borough and Forest games to come. Tune in again next week where we'll do it all over again. Fingers crossed for at least another 2 games. I say at least another 2 games. It can only be another 2 games. That would be it. It would be 2 games or 1 game. No more, no less. Thank you, as always, to these 3 wonderful gents for joining me in breaking down the wonderful world of the football nature. And yes, we'll be back next week to do it all over again. And we'll almost be at the end of the season. So, tune in next week. But until then, it's tatty bye for now.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Another week of football gone. Another week of football to come. So, still football to look forward to. Still football to enjoy. And more football podcasts to enjoy. Join us next week. Find out how the teams did this week. And find out if we're still doing more next week. Fingers crossed. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave us a review. Check out the website, thecookiecast.com. And that way you can get in touch with us. There's social media links, there's an email button. You can talk to us the way we talk to you. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.